Welcome to the Alison podcast, where high-achieving women elevate their identity, expand what's possible, and create a life of true abundance. I'm Alison Howard. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast, to the YouTube channel. Today, I'm so excited about this topic. We are talking about something that has the potential to completely shift the way that you relate to time and to progress and to the creation or co-creation with God of your life. And I love this topic because I'm an impatient woman. I think that's really why. But we're talking about how to collapse time. Stay with me here. This is not going to be woo-woo, I promise. But it is an exciting topic because when you think about collapsing time, and not in a like rushed or like a heavy like pressure type of way, and not obviously in the way that bypasses growth, but in the way that aligns so fully with the woman that you're becoming. That woman that you're becoming, I'm sure once felt very far away, but begins to feel much closer and much more natural and much more available because you're going from where you are, point A, to where you want to go, point B, quickly. And most women are not limited by what's possible for them. They are limited by how far away they believe it is. They believe that their next level is something that's going to take them years to achieve. They believe that they must slowly earn and prove and hustle their way there. They believe that time itself is the barrier. But what if the distance that you feel between you and your next level is not actually about time at all? It's about identity. Okay. So I want to discuss first why time can feel like a barrier. So, time often will feel like a barrier when your current identity does not match the life that you desire. So, when there is a gap between who you are being and what you want to experience, that gap gets interpreted as time. You think it will take me years to get there. That's like your record, what's going on in your brain. But what you're often sensing isn't time at all. It's just feeling a misalignment. Because when your identity shifts, timelines, if you will, shift as well. So for example, I will give you an example of this, but what I mean when I say timelines shift is that things that once felt very far away begin to move closer. So opportunities will appear differently. Decisions become easier to make. They become very clear, and momentum just starts to build. It just starts to build naturally. So time expands or contracts based on alignment. And so when I use when I use the phrase timeline shifting, I'm not talking about anything, super crazy or weird. What I mean is, for example, I remember the first time that I started a YouTube channel, I did it as a way to differentiate myself from the competition of the industry that I was in at the time. And it was the wedding planning industry. I owned a wedding planning company in Southern California. I was doing bridal fairs and I was working with brides and grooms who had really low budgets, and it was really stressful. And I didn't really like all of them, but I needed to, build my business. And I thought, this feels totally misaligned. This does not feel like the work I want to be doing. And so I decided to start a YouTube channel to differentiate myself from the competition because at that time, nobody was using YouTube. And I knew that YouTube would do one thing in particular. It would weed out those who were not for me because they would not resonate with what I was putting out there, and draw to me those who were for me. It opened up a whole world for me when it came to public speaking all over the country, and that's when I started coaching novice and aspiring wedding planners. It was very aligned, and so I could have stayed on this timeline of struggling wedding planner who is doing things that did not feel aligned, did them because it's what everybody else did, or I could have shifted the timeline, and I did, to where my business just grew, and so did my reputation, and so did my income, and so did my impact, and all of those things. That's what I mean when I say timeline shift. Okay, now let's get back to it. So one of the most underestimated forces in transformation is decision. This is huge. And I want to speak to you about decision because as somebody who's been coaching for 15 years, most women struggle with making decisions. And I don't know about you. but I have never met a successful CEO of a very, very successful business who was slow to decision making. They made decisions quickly. They knew that they would make the decision that felt the most aligned. And if they needed to pivot at some point, they could. But that is what I see. I see the most successful people are quick decision makers. Um, so, one of the most underestimated forces, like I said, in transformation is decision. And this is not about wishing, it's not about hoping, it's not about considering, it's about deciding. And yes, as somebody who is a believer, I definitely believe in praying before I make a decision, but also I believe in Holy Spirit intuition. I feel that a lot of times I know the decision already. It's just I use the delay of like considering and overthinking that's rooted in fear, really, is what it is, because I'm afraid. But when I know in my soul, in my gut, my intuition, when I need to make a decision. I know what the decision always is. A true decision is not casual. It's not something that is tentative. It's not something that you revisit every day. It is a hard line in the sand. It is the moment that you say, this is who I am now, even before all the evidence has caught up to that. And we're talking a little bit about embodiment here. And from that place, your thinking begins to reorganize. Your choices begin to align and your energy shifts. You are no longer trying to get there. You are beginning to live from there. I'll give you an example. When I decided to be a healthier person, I decided I am going to be a healthy person. I made the decision. I am going to eat the majority of the food that I eat. I'm going to prepare myself. I am not going to drink soda. I am going to drink water for most of the day. Like, that is my beverage of choice. I am going to do 10K steps a day. I'm going to lift weights. Like, all of these things became decisions, right? So I began to identify as a healthy person. And wouldn't you know, I started becoming really healthy because I was living from that state. And living from the end does not mean pretending. It means orienting your internal world toward the version of yourself who already has what you desire. So it means asking yourself, okay, how does she think? The version of you that you are wanting to become, how does she think? How does she move? How does she move through her day? How does she move through her life? How does she move through situations? How does she move through that email that kind of pissed her off? How does she decide? How does she make decisions? What does she no longer tolerate in her life? And then allowing those answers to inform your present behavior. It actually makes things super simple when you do it from that posture. This is where the be, do, have, which I have talked about so many times and in my live events. And I mean, we talk about this all the time. But this is where be, do, have becomes fully embodied. You're no longer waiting for your life to change before you change. You are changing first, and that's what creates the external change that you desire. First, you have to be. Then you will start doing. So the be is the identity. First, you are going to be her. Then you're going to start doing things that she would do. Then you're going to have the results that you want to have based on those other two things. Okay. So there have been moments, and I just shared one with my wedding planning moment, but there have been moments in my own life where something shifted very quickly. And when I looked back, it wasn't because, time suddenly sped up. So, yes, there was the wedding planning situation. There were also times that was my first business. I was 25 when I started that business and I had it for nearly a decade. But there were times in other business situations or relationship situations or health situations where I made a decision about who I was going to be and I just stopped negotiating with the decision. So I stopped entertaining the old identity. I stopped going back and forth. I stopped waiting for confirmations, especially external confirmations. And in that steadiness, things began to move. And it wasn't because I was forcing them, it's because I was aligned with them. Many women do not experience this kind of acceleration because they remain in indecision. They revisit their same old identity daily. They question themselves constantly, so much self doubt. They move forward and then they pull back. They don't invest in themselves. They don't invest in the course or the community or the coach or whatever it is. And this creates a stop and start pattern And it really stretches out a timeline like so unnecessarily. Where I will work with somebody and she will say, I have been stuck at this place in my life or in my business for 7 years or whatever it is. It's like a long amount of time. And my heart breaks. My heart breaks for her because it's so unnecessary. It is not that change is slow. It's that inconsistency slows it down. The secret sauce to so many things is just consistency. And a lot of it starts internally. So I want to bring this into the practical because this is where the work becomes powerful. So I have a few takeaways for you. Okay. So number one, first, I want you to get out a notebook and I want you to define your next level self very clearly. Do not be like confused about this. Do not be vague. Be specific. What does she believe? What does she prioritize? How does she respond? Get very specific on your next level self. What does she tolerate? What habits does she have? Think about who she is and write this down. And just kind of brain dump it. You don't have to put full sentences, just write it down. Second, I want you to make a decision about who you're becoming. So I want you to see everything you've written on your notebook. And then I want you to decide. I want you to make a firm decision. I want you to feel really like settled in this decision. That is where I'm going. That is who I'm becoming. And then third, I want you to begin to start making small decisions. These are like micro decisions, micro moments from that identity. All that you just wrote down on that piece of paper. I want you to start making some small decisions of what you could do today that she would be doing. How would you answer that email? Something I ask myself all the time is what would the most elevated version of myself do in this situation? Because that's what I'm aiming for, right? The most elevated version of myself. And that's what you're aiming for too if you're here. So start making decisions from that identity. Okay. The fourth thing to do is to notice when you slip into old patterns without judging yourself. That's really important. We all do this. We all are trying to, well, not all of us, but those of us who are being intentional, if you're on this podcast, you're one of them. But those of us who are wanting to become the most empowered versions of ourselves, who are wanting to elevate and ascend, we will slip into old patterns. And that happens. We're human. So simply notice it, just become aware of it, and return to alignment, the new pattern. And the fifth thing is to anchor yourself in truth. For those of you who are faith driven, my sisters, this can mean reminding yourself that you are not striving, that you are not having to prove anything, that you're not alone in this. You're being guided, you're being supported, and you're being strengthened in the process of becoming. So these shifts may feel a little subtle at first, and that's okay. But over time, they really create powerful momentum because little by little, a little adds up to a lot. So if you're listening to this and you think, oh, this encouraged me so much, and I really hope it did, I want to invite you to deepen this work alongside other women who are also stepping into their next level. I want to invite you to join my private community, the Inner Shift Society. And this is where we continue these conversations around identity and embodiment, mindset, aligned expansion in a really supportive and intentional space. So I do life coaching in this community. I will get to know you. We will become friends, and I'm so excited for that. So you're going to find the link in the show notes, and I would love to have you there. But I want to leave you with these final thoughts, okay? Your next level is not as far away as it feels, as you think it is. Breakthrough is often right around the corner, and we just stop before we get there. So keep going. So time is not your limitation. Indecision is. Decide who you want to be. And the moment you decide, truly, the moment that you decide, things begin to shift. So ask yourself, who am I no longer willing to be? Who am I becoming right now? And then start to live from that place. Now, go and be the woman that your future is waiting on. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope that you will be blessed and have a great week, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.